If you're around people all the time, you are going to have conflict. It's just the nature of the beast. If you've been married for any amount of time, if you have teenagers, if you have people in your life, there's going to be some conflict. And while we don't pursue it, obviously, we don't necessarily have to be like, oh no, this is terrible, everything is wrong, the world is ending. Conflicts can be an opportunity to make your relationship even stronger if you do it right. I know a lot of older Christian women, when I was newly married, they wouldn't say I had a fight with my spouse. They would say, we had an opportunity. And all the ladies were like, opportunity. It was kind of tongue-in-cheek, but honestly, you could adopt that perspective. Here's an opportunity for me to better understand this person, to maybe build some bridges. So I'm going to talk to you about that today, but first let me introduce myself. My name is Kate Wood. I am an integrative health and wellness coach. I'm also a mom of 5. I love helping women overcome overwhelm, reduce their stress, and live more vibrant, happy lives. Sometimes we get really upset if we get into a conflict with someone else. Some people actually go into fight or flight anytime there tends to be any type of disagreement over anything. I would highly encourage you to stop your brain from spinning as much as possible. Take some deep breaths. If you're not able to calm down, you may say, hey, I need to talk with you about this in an hour. I need to go calm down and get my head together, or however you want to say it. Sometimes we feel so defensive, we're trying to figure out the next zinger we're going to throw in there, or the next thing we're going to say to defend ourselves. And did you see I did this with my hands? So what we're going to do is we're going to calm down for a minute, take the hands down, and just listen. And sometimes heightened intensity by the other person can feel intimidating, especially to highly sensitive personalities, which I count myself as one of those. We may need to take a beat, but if we can just listen to what they're saying and try to figure out where they're coming from as much as possible, instead of figuring out exactly the next thing that we're going to say, that is going to be hugely helpful. So you're going to respond the best way that you see fit. I would say before you even speak or as you're listening, if you can remember, say a quick prayer. Lord, help me here. Guard my mouth, right? Guard my mind. Help me to see what's important here. A lot of times what happens if we're, having a opportunity with our spouse or our teen or a coworker is that we go into the blame game. They say, this bothers me when you do this. And you're like, oh yeah, well you do this. It's like we have a hot potato and we're trying to throw it back and forth to each other. We're trying not to catch the hot potato. I'm not asking you to be untruthful, but if there's some truth to what they said, you could be like, I see where you're coming from. And you can own the things if you've been in the wrong. You know what, that's true. I do that. Again, we're not making up things to try to end the fight quickly so that we don't have to feel nervous. Those of us who don't like conflict will often bow to pressure, apologize a whole bunch of times so it can just be over. And honestly, you're probably not going to get the results in your relationship that you want by doing that. If you care about this relationship, you're not just going to try to get it over as quick as you can. Also, trying to figure out what the end goal is. Is there a mutual end goal that you can find? Or at the very least, what is their end goal? Just to understand it. What are we shooting for? That gives the opportunity a direction instead of just going back and forth or someone just blowing off steam and kind of blowing up. And if you are the blower-upper, I would really, really encourage you to maybe get into some coaching, start to understand your emotions a little bit better so that you can process your emotions and not have to explode on people. When people say, oh, I do let my emotions out. I scream and yell. Kind of like the tea kettle that just didn't have the release valve, just explodes. That's not a great, mature, healthy way of expressing emotions. We want to deal with them first. And then, we can let people know how we're feeling. But letting it build and build and build and ignoring it until we explode is not a great way to do things. So I would encourage you to get with a coach who understands emotions. I am an emotional intelligence coach. I'm trained in a lot of different modalities. I also run a group coaching program where we deal with mindset and emotions called the Mighty Hearted Community. That's an awesome group. If you are feeling kind of lonesome in your path, this is a great group of women, and I lead the charge as your coach to work on these things. Because often, if you've done the same patterns over and over and over and over again, it may take some assistance, some fresh ideas to start the new patterns, to have the confidence to start the new patterns, to even have the words that you might want to say to handle these different confrontations better. Here's the other thing that I've learned is that these types of arguments and these types of patterns thrive in ambiguity and people not saying what they really want or need. And so we don't have control over the other person, but we have control over us. So we can ask good questions like, what do you really want here? What do you need from me? Or what do you need just in general? It may not really honestly have a whole lot to do with you. Sometimes we have those types of puzzling interactions and it didn't really have anything to do with you. They were stressed or whatever, maybe not handling their emotions real great, right? I'm going to encourage you to be specific about what you want and need. And they have the choice to respond, to help you get that thing, to encourage you toward it or not. But it's very hard to hit that goal if they have no idea what it is that you want or need and you're not willing to be honest about what you want or need. And I find that the more I am able to do that, even though it feels a little scary when you first start doing this, once you start doing that, you may find that they start saying what they want and need because they've seen you do it. That's pretty amazing. And that's a great thing to model, like in your marriage, in your parenting, being specific. Anytime we're kind of vague and just throwing blame around, it gets messy, it gets confusing. Often a solution isn't reached, the goals aren't met, because sometimes neither person knows what the goal is or what they want or need. So really trying to bring some clarity to the situation is huge. It is a game changer, but we need to stay like calm enough to like almost see it from a little bit of a removed perspective. If you're in the heat of the moment, sometimes I imagine taking a step back. You could even physically take a step back to look at the situation from a bird's eye view of like, what's going on here? Well, it's getting kind of heated. We're throwing the blame around. We're being like super vague. We're not really getting anywhere. It's just the same back and forth, back and forth. That's when I'm like, okay, what can I do? Are we being ambiguous? That's not good. Are we throwing blame back and forth? Am I actually listening? Those are big things, and it may take some practice. You're probably going to try and fail many times. I have too, but it's worth a trying, falling on your face a couple times in order to get that better relationship. If the relationship matters to you, you're going to dig in and do the work so that there can be a positive outcome. Do you ever do this where like there's a big heated argument, everyone's like, and then you have to let it drop because nothing good is coming out of it? But then those emotions and those needs are still unmet and they kind of simmer underneath. You know that like simmery feeling. And when you get around that person, you're like, if you want to get rid of the simmer, we got to be more honest about things and to be more goal directed. So does every disagreement have to end with a broken relationship and hurt feelings? Hopefully not. Hopefully in the majority of these, you come away with understanding them better. They understand you better. Maybe you've reached a mutual goal. Maybe you've come up with a plan. Maybe you've just been able to express some emotions back and forth. That's so important to close relationships. And so I just want to encourage you in this as someone who used to be so afraid of conflict. I would avoid it at all cost. But the cost, honestly, was authentic, good relationships. And if that is your goal, I'm going to encourage you to try these different techniques, being honest, seeking a goal, really listening to upgrade all of those opportunities that you have, maybe when some conflicts or hurt feelings or different things come up. I'm wishing you all the best in this area. So if relationships and emotions and mindset are your jam, please subscribe. I talk about it every week. I love helping you upgrade and up-level these areas of your life. And if you want to find out more about coaching with me, either one-on-one or in a group setting, certainly visit my website, katewoodcoaching.com, and I would love to help you in your journey. Take care.